Let's talk about one of my most favorite designers, Jean Paul Gaultier, and his iconic stage design for Madonna's Blond Ambition tour in 1990. Today, both of them are famous for this tour. Madonna wrote pop culture history, and Jean Paul Gaultier designed this unforgettable garment. And I picked this garment not only for the reason that it became a fashion icon, I also picked it because it illustrates very well what Jean Paul Gaultier wants to achieve with his fashion, what society wants to hide. Jean Paul Gaultier shows off with pride, and this is a direct quote from his website, and it illustrates so well what he does with his fashion, because he does things that other people would never dare to do. For example, he reverses power balances. He turns what some people consider defects into beauty, or we could say it even more extreme, he turns freaks into muses. He turns lingerie into haute couture, which we can also see with this example of the corset and the cone bra that actually made it on a very big stage in the 1990s. And this was a very special time when Jean Paul Gaultier and Madonna collaborated. Madonna was at the peak of her career and people were already eagerly awaiting the tour. The Blond Ambition tour started in Japan, and when you watch the video you immediately get carried away. Even today you feel the energy, the dancers are motivating the crowd until Madonna shows up at the top of these stairs, and she wears a dark pinstripe suit. If you pay close attention you can see what she's wearing underneath, but you have to know about it. I think at the time when nobody knew what was going to come, people did not really see it. So she sings Express Herself and walks down the stairs, and then it takes some time. She is at the front of the stage, and I think over a minute into the song she opens up the blazer and drops it and reveals this cone-shaped bra corset in blush pink. And if you look closely, also her background dancers wear black cone-shaped bras. Madonna shocked again, and I'm saying again here on purpose because this was what Madonna was famous for, shocking people, also causing controversy. And this was just another step. It was also the time after she released the album Like a Prayer, and especially the single and the video Like a Prayer caused a lot of controversy. At the time Madonna signed a deal with PepsiCo for $5 million. You have to imagine how much money this was at the time in the early 1990s. And the Catholic Church was so upset about this single and the video that they actually the Vatican called for a boycott of PepsiCo and its products. So PepsiCo then actually pulled this relationship with Madonna. And when Madonna was asked about this reaction by the Catholic Church, she was actually quite relaxed and said she's an artist and art is meant to provoke. So she does not really see why it's such a big controversy. Maybe she was also that relaxed because there are rumors, I could not completely confirm this, that Madonna never had to return the checks by Pepsi company. So maybe that was a reason why she was that relaxed about this whole thing. And then she comes on stage and reveals this odd looking corset. What does this mean? Does this mean she promoted traditional values? Because for a very long time, the corset stood also for the suppression of women. I actually doubt that because a lot of people see Madonna as a feminist. And I actually think this is the signature Gaultier-Madonna collaboration, that they wanted to take something where people have a certain view on and then turn it into something else. Because look at this corset, the shape is actually weird. I already said it before, it looks a bit odd. It does not correspond to the typical beauty ideal of the 1990s or late 80s, where you had a curved round body shape. This looks a bit aggressive, I would say. It looks almost phallic, and I think this was intentional to take this garment that stood for the oppression of women and turn it into something completely different. And at the same time she wears this corset underneath a pinstripe suit. So this is again something else that Gaultier very often does. He blends the genders. So this is actually a male garment, a power garment for men that she wears, and then underneath she wears this corset that stands for the suppression of women. But it also reflects the times, because in the 80s we had the yuppie movement. More and more women also moved into high-level careers. And maybe it also shows Jean Paul Gaultier's line between the genders. He did that, or does that very often, that he blends women's wear and men's wear. So this is definitely also something that he wanted to achieve with it. And he himself also said that he wanted to hand power back to the women with this design. So it's definitely not what we would assume at first sight, that she wears a corset to show that she supports the oppression of women. I think it's exactly the other way around, that they actually wanted to empower women with this design. And also Madonna stresses this idea by singing "Don't go for second best, baby," while wearing this outfit. And Jean Paul Gaultier said in interviews that Madonna actually contacted him. She was interested in his cross-gender designs. She apparently called him. I also read that she sent a handwritten note to Jean Paul Gaultier. And according to Gaultier, it was 2 days before his pret-à-porter shows. And apparently Madonna knew exactly what she wanted. She wanted a suit and a corset, and she wanted to blend the masculine and the feminine. And Jean Paul Gaultier said for him it was easy because he was intrigued by that idea, but he also was a very big fan of Madonna's. So he really wanted to enter into this collaboration as well. And just very briefly, Jean Paul Gaultier was born in 1952, and he actually never formally trained as a fashion designer, but what he did was to send out his fashion sketches to various big names in France. And actually Pierre Cardin, the designer, was very intrigued by his sketches and hired him as an assistant in 1970. He then also worked for the House of Patou, and in 1976 he launched his very first collection under his own name. And then we also have to put the young Gaultier into the context of the times, because this was the late 70s, early 80s. We have the big traditional French houses like Dior and Chanel with a very classic approach to beauty. And then you have somebody coming in like Gaultier, an enfant terrible, very often mentioned in the same sentence as his colleague Thierry Mugler, doing something completely different, shaking up the industry. And then in 1996, he also adds an haute couture line. So we could say from enfant terrible to haute couture terrible as well. Today, Gaultier is one of the most famous names in the industry, and most people probably associate with him the corset and this bra, and also the fragrance that is in this bottle shaped like a corset. But he's also famous for pinstripes, for example, and also for skirts. But he's also very known for blending things. So he blends clothes, women's wear and men's wear. He blends the genders. He blends people. He blends social classes. And this is something very interesting about Gaultier's design aesthetics. And of course, Gaultier aims to provoke, but sometimes he just wants to show us his version of beauty. He also did things that at the time nobody did. He scouted people on the street and asked them to walk on the runway. This was something that at the time, when everything was way more strict when it came to runway models, it was very innovative that he did this. He also asked friends and family to walk for him, so it's a very different approach at the time. And coming back to that perfume bottle, it is this corset shape. He also has a male version of it, and when you look at this corset, it's not the cone shape as you would assume it. It's a bit more round. And what is also interesting, he put his perfumes into a simple tin. So you have this luxury perfume in this beautiful shape, and then he puts it in a tin or a can like a soup. So this was also something that nobody really thought about before Gaultier. And similar what I said to Karl Lagerfeld in my other video, also Jean Paul Gaultier turned himself into a public persona. He's very famous. And he did much more than just designing for the runway. It is not only the collaboration with Madonna, but he has a close link to pop culture. He also designed costumes for movies, for example, for Pedro Almodovar or also Luc Besson. And maybe you also remember when Marion Cotillard, the French actress, received her Academy Award. She wore this beautiful white gown with these scales. She almost looked like a mermaid. And this was also Jean Paul Gaultier. And I think this is again a signature look, because yes, it's a beautiful gown. She looks amazing, but there's something weird about it, maybe even creepy about it. Again, he mixes like fantasy, fairy tales, and a real life actress. So maybe this is his crossover between fashion and movies. So this is definitely also another big Jean Paul Gaultier moment. And needless to say, there are many more celebrity fans of Jean Paul Gaultier, but I would say the OG pop culture collaboration was with Madonna in the 1990s. And Gaultier did not invent this cone bra, it was actually invented long before Gaultier. It goes back to the mid-20th century. There was a brand called Permalift, and they launched the Bullet bra in 1941. So this was this pointy bra, and they actually advertised that this bra would keep its signature pointed shape just by the stitching. And this bra shape became really popular in the 1950s. Think about Jane Mansfield, but also Marilyn Monroe with these signature sweaters. And when you look closely at Madonna, when she comes down the stairs in 1990 during her tour, she actually looks like a modern version of Marilyn Monroe. I do have to do more research if this was an obvious reference, but I do think it was, because we have that pointed bra, the cone bra, and also the hair. So maybe Gaultier or Madonna herself really wanted to make that reference to that garment from the 1950s. So this is my personal assumption. If you know more about this, please let me know in the comments below. And actually, we could say that Gaultier tested this corset before putting it on Madonna, because he already created kind of a corset like Madonna style in 1987. And already earlier, he used the cone-shaped bra. For example, in 1983, Iman walked in a version of it, and also for his fall-winter collection in 1985, he used this cone bra shape. So I think maybe Madonna already saw it in previous collections, and then she said, this is something that I like, I want to work with this. And this cone-shaped bra has been coming back multiple times throughout his career. For example, for Spring-Summer 2007 or also 2020. And it is also part in the Fall-Winter collection 2022-23. And what is special about this collection, this haute couture collection, is that it was designed by Olivier Rousteing. And he is basically a guest designer. And since 2021, Gaultier has been inviting other designers to come to his house and create the haute couture line. Needless to say, Gaultier was not the only designer working with this cone bra and the corset. When we think about the deconstruction of the corset, we have to mention Vivienne Westwood. And more recently, Daniel Roseberry has been taking up this cone-shaped bra in his collections for Schiaparelli. And I would like to know your opinion on this, that Daniel Roseberry does this. Do you find this innovative, that he goes back to Gaultier, or do you find it lazy or boring? Let me know in the comments below. I would really like to hear your view on this. And Gaultier and Madonna was not a one-off thing for this one tour. They have been collaborating for years now. Another example would be in 1991 for the screening of her movie In Bed with Madonna. I think it was in Cannes. She wore another version of this cone-shaped bra. So you have to imagine it's this traditional setting of the film festival, and then she wears something like this. And a year later, Madonna attended a charity event hosted by Gaultier, where he raised awareness and funds for HIV/AIDS for AmFair. And again, they created this outcry and shock because she was wearing a top which was bondage style, and it basically revealed her breast. So her upper body was fully naked, we could say. And next to her was Jean Paul Gaultier walking in this very simple pants vest combination in black with his signature pinstripe t-shirt, and he's obviously also having fun. And I think they created this outcry on purpose. Yes, on the one hand, both of them love to provoke. It's good marketing, but it was also marketing for a special purpose, because when we think of the times, this was the times of HIV/AIDS. That's why they hosted this gala. But the problem at the time was that there was a bit of awareness, but it was still kind of a taboo topic. So not a lot of people talked about it. So what does Gaultier do? Again, he breaks the rules. He creates this outcry, this shock, and everybody focuses on this event. And with this, they also focus on HIV/AIDS, and he raised awareness by doing this together with Madonna. And yes, people can criticize Madonna for her style or that she wants to be in the spotlight, But I actually want to give her credit for it because this was a time where not a lot of people talked about this topic or even dared to be on stage for this topic. And she does this, and then she does it in her way, shocking, provoking, and drawing attention to this topic, also using her popularity to draw attention to this topic. So this is definitely something that I want to give her credit for. And in a way, Gaultier himself actually confirmed this because he said in an interview, I'm not quoting directly here, he said something along the lines of that fashion should make people think, and that he wants to use fashion to point out what is happening in the world. And of course, Madonna also attended his runway shows. I would like to point out one example here. It was the Pret-a-Porter Spring-Summer 1995 runway show, because it's quite funny. When you do some research online and you see the pictures, you see the top of the dress, which is fully covered. It's gold sequins, I think. But the bottom part, the skirt part, is sheer. I actually think it also references corsets, if I saw it correctly in the pictures. And what is interesting, very often you see her carrying this bouquet. So you have the flowers at the top, and then there's one picture where a flamingo flower covers a female body part. So it's quite interesting. Again, she attends this show and then again provokes with this transparent dress. So I think that's kind of funny as well. And then also in 2018, Gaultier and Madonna attended the Met Gala. And I find this so funny and fitting because the topic was fashion and the Catholic imagination. So imagine now, 30 years after Madonna caused this scandal, she and Gaultier together attend the Met Gala. And I do have to say, I think they look really, really good. I think they look amazing. And I really liked this nod to the scandal that she caused 30 years ago, and kind of also enhanced it with the help of Jean Paul Gaultier. So you can tell I am a fan of Gaultier's designs. I also like this collaboration with Madonna, but I would like to know what you think about this. What do you think about Jean Paul Gaultier as a designer? What do you think about Madonna and this corset? Are you a fan or do you not like it that much? Let me know in the comments below. And I need to remind you, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And you can also head over to thepinklookbook.com if you want to read more fashion related articles, and you can also check out my fashion label Pelagona. And if you enjoyed this video about Jean Paul Gaultier, I have another video where I also talk about him in the context of Y2K fashion. So maybe this is also interesting for you. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in the next one.